We've had quite the cold snap over the last 7 to 10 days. We've seen temperatures as low as -6 overnight. Now, of course, we all know that frost can do significant damage to plants. But there are some vegetables that actually benefit from a really good cold snap. And in today's video, I shall give you my top 6 vegetables that really benefit from a cold spell. Hello and welcome back to the No Dig Norfolk Gardener. Now, we may have come out of the cold spell, but actually it's only about 2 or 3 degrees today and my hands are quite cold. Frost occurs when the temperatures go into the minus. As the temperatures come down slowly during the day, there will be moisture in the air that will settle on the grass, on your soil, on your plants, and of course on the roofs of your buildings. And then as I go down into the negative, in the morning, open your curtains and you go, oh, my poor vegetables, are they alive? And of course, in most cases, they will be, provided you've grown the correct varieties that can grow in your region or the country where you live. You'll be fine. If you take a look at these purple sprouting broccoli here, you can see a couple of days ago they looked very, very sorry for themselves. Their leaves were down here and they looked for all the world as though they'd had it. But look at them now. They're looking absolutely fine, and we shall continue to get harvests from them. Moreover, the frost you do need to be concerned about is the black frost. Black frost is the most damaging. When you think about frost, you expect to see a white covering. But in the case of a black frost, because the air is dry, the white isn't formed. Black frost can be more damaging because it directly attacks the internal structures of the plant. When the ice forms, they form a pointed shape, and this makes tears in the internal tissue of the plant. It's called a black frost because the damaged parts turn black. And you've probably seen when you've been out on certain mornings, potatoes especially, if they're planted too early and are frozen, they often go very black. A ground frost can be present even if the air temperature above the ground is higher than 0 if the sky is clear and it's been a sunny day. This is because the heat that the soil has absorbed during the day radiates to the sky. The first of my vegetables, my top 6 that benefit from a frost and cold weather, is the humble parsnip. And it's one of the rare times that you ever see me with a fork in my hand, and that's because I need to loosen the soil around the parsnip to extract it from the soil. The other time that I tend to use it is when we harvest the leeks. So you can see I haven't turned the soil over, I've merely just loosened it around. That's a lovely parsnip, Mrs. W.
It is, yes. Have that for lunch tomorrow.
The reason why it benefits from the cold is because this vegetable is full of starch, and when it freezes, those starches turn into sugar. It acts as an internal antifreeze to the vegetable so that it doesn't get damaged. But for us, the people that want to eat it, it makes it far more sweeter. The second vegetable that really benefits from a cold snap are, of course, the Brussels sprout. We've still got plenty to eat. We haven't even started on these 2 smaller plants.
We have been chomping our way through the others though, and they've been delicious, haven't they?
They have. That variety is a new variety to us called Trafalgar. And I know I did ask earlier last year when we planted them if anybody had grown them before and to give us your thoughts on them. We didn't receive any feedback, so I assume that none of you have grown this variety before. I can tell you they taste absolutely amazing. You can see that myself and Mrs. W have actually been having the tops of these sprouts, and they form like a sprout come cabbage top. They're really, really tasty. It's an extra bonus harvest that you can get from these plants. We have another couple of tops to take out. Now, we don't take the tops out until we're ready to actually begin the harvest. And the reason is, you can see at the very top of the plant there are very small ones, whereas these down the bottom, they're ready for us to harvest. Nice and tight. As soon as we take the top off, that will hasten this plant to actually make these bigger, like these down here, and we can finish the remainder of the harvest. But make no mistake, those sprout tops are absolutely delicious. Now, my third vegetable is the leek. Leeks are really quite a hardy vegetable. They can look really bedraggled and awful once a frost has occurred, but they do always pick themselves up, and they're a vegetable certainly here in our Zone 9A garden that will stand from October all the way through to the following March, if myself and Mrs. W haven't already eaten them. Top tip, the only thing to remember is, when it comes to leeks, do not harvest them until the ground has thawed, because all you'll do is snap them and lose the bottom half of the leek. We always try to give you some good top tips, some gardening hacks, and if you want to learn more about them, then do make sure that you are subscribed to our channel. And of course, most importantly, click the bell icon, and then you'll be notified whenever we upload a video. Number 4 on my list is cabbage. Now, you may wonder why it's at number 4. That's because I can eat cabbages all year round, and leeks just go to number 3 because I can only get them between October and March. Nevertheless, they are a really valuable vegetable. They stand in the ground and they're pretty much unaffected by frost. I'm going to harvest this one today because we want a cabbage. Now, you can see here that where it's been frosted on multiple occasions, it's gone a bit mouldy and a bit soft. But actually, the great thing about cabbages is that once you remove the outer layer, it shall reveal a lovely cabbage underneath. And of course, variety is key, because the Savoy cabbage is the hardiest of all and can survive the temperatures that we've had in the minuses over the last few days. 5th on my list is cauliflower. Now, I don't know about you, but we've been gardening for most of our lives, myself and Mrs. W, and I never cease to be amazed the way that nature can actually produce and protect itself from a lot of the things that happen around us, certainly weather-wise. These cauliflowers over the years have evolved to be able to form their curd during the winter months. But of course, they're quite delicate cauliflower curds. So these leaves, you can see the way that they've twisted their way around. There will be a small curd in there at this moment in time, because these are due for a harvest later this month and through February. And that's just protecting that. When they open up, you're ready for a harvest. And I know that we've said this several times over the years since we've had the YouTube channel. Don't leave them too long. It's not worth it. They are unprotected at this time of the year once those leaves open. And if you do get a frost, or even worse, there's some dew on it first thing in the morning, and then we have a really bright sunny day, it will turn those curds brown. This one here you can see I'm actually going to harvest today. It mightn't be the biggest of cauliflowers that I've ever grown, because we do grow them bigger, but I don't want to lose that. And if I cut that in half, myself and Mrs. W can actually have half each, along with the cabbage that we've just harvested. So I would always say, don't leave it, because now those leaves are open, you can see that this is now open to all of the elements. And then number 6 on my top 6 is purple sprouting broccoli. Now I showed you earlier in the video that they looked really sorry for themselves. That was only 2 days ago. As you can see, they've picked themselves back up. We've got harvest to come. There's lots coming on here, Mrs. W.
Yes, they're lovely, aren't they? Brilliant.
And this is what happens after you take the central head. And to help myself and Mrs. W so that we can get a continuity of harvest this year, we've grown 3 different varieties. That's the Rudolph. We've been enjoying that since, well, the beginning of the month. Right at the end of December, we were able to harvest the tops. This one is called early purple sprouting broccoli, and I can see the leaves are actually turning into, that's due to harvest in February. That's probably bang on. And then this will take over. And then we have this variety here, which is claret. We've been growing that for a couple of years now, especially after Ken over there in Wales told us about that variety, and that is an F1. I don't like to grow all of the claret because for the majority of the time there is myself and Mrs. W. We're the only people that we're growing for. All the children have gone, living in their own places. So the claret really does form lots and lots of spears, but I wouldn't say all at the same time, but you do get so many, don't you?
You do.
At any one time. Whereas this, I will take this harvest probably over the next couple of days, and in 2 or 3 days' time, I'll get the same amount again.
The good thing with the claret variety also is it takes us up to the hungry gap, doesn't it? Into the hungry gap.
Very true, Mrs. W.
As well, so it just gives you that extra harvest.
It's very true. That is very true. And if you think each one of these plants actually will give about easily 6 weeks of harvest, that's 18 weeks of harvest that you will get from these varieties. What value that is, eh? And especially over here in the UK, because if you go to your greengrocer or the supermarket or a farm shop, the amount of money that they charge you for just a few spears of this vegetable is horrendous. For the price of a packet of seeds, and letting them grow from June until now, you can save yourself loads of money. So those 6 varieties, they're in our garden now, and they are giving us harvests. But there's also things that are in the garden that are not giving us harvest yet, but they will do. We have cabbages still to come later in the year. We still have cauliflower, we have carrots, we have swede, and we have spring green that are in the garden, and they will come into their own during April and May. And of course, all of that before we include the potatoes that we still have. We still have onions in store, garlic, and shallots. You put all of that mixed together and you can see that we still have lots of food that will keep us going between now, through the hungry gap, until the first harvests of this year become available to us. Now, of course, when it comes to frost, occasionally you can get a really harsh one. And every now and again, here in our no dig Norfolk garden, we will see a -10. Doesn't happen very often, but it occasionally does. The last time was about 4 years ago when it got down that low. What I would always advise, regardless whether it's -1, -10, is over your plants, make a cloche to put over them. You've seen that we use the blue piping and the EnviroMesh to cloche our plants. Cloches work because when the sunshine shines, that's a bit of a tongue twister, Mrs. W. The air underneath the cloche warms up. And then when the temperature goes down overnight, that warm air is still trapped under the cloche, keeping the soil that little bit warmer. In effect, what you're doing is creating a microclimate for those vegetables to grow in. They might well still freeze, but they won't freeze as harshly. And of course, the other option you have is something like fleece to put over the hoops. And at this time of the year, I would always advise that you do use hoops. Don't just lay it over it, because what can then happen is that the moisture settles on top of your coverings, and if it's touching the plants, it will freeze to the plant. You come along the following morning, go to take the covering off, and you rip half the leaves off your plant. But also, because it will have frozen to the leaf, it will still do the damage, because that leaf will still freeze. Therefore, it negates the whole point of you putting a cloche over it. Do keep your comments coming. We love to hear all about what's going on in your gardens or on your allotments, wherever you are in the world. And we really do appreciate each and every one of them. So do let us know in particular, how has your garden been faring during this cold snap? So do let us know your thoughts. There are, of course, other vegetables that will grow at this time of the year. We haven't even touched on the kale, the carrots, the lettuce, the spinach, the chard, all those lovely things that we do still have in the garden. Now, with many of the vegetables that we've looked at today, you will find the complete growth cycle from seed to table in our seed to table playlist. I know that the sprouts are already on there, the cabbage is already on there, we'll keep adding to it. And of course, many of you will be wanting to grow your onions, maybe for the first time, and you're watching us for the first time. So do check those videos out, because they will give you lots of information on how to grow these wonderful vegetables. And you will find that playlist will be up next after you've finished watching this video. Have a great rest of your gardening week, and we shall see you on the next one.